My pleasure to introduce Aquan-Assee. He is the author of Second Life, Second Chance, The Teacher's Chronicle of Despair, Recovery, and Triumph. And he is a survivor of an acquired brain injury. Anthony was in a coma for 2 weeks and was not expected to live. Through his persistence and determination, he has been able to recover the capacity to function effectively despite the overwhelming odds against him. I'm very proud to announce our feature presentation, Starting Over, The Survivor's Guide to Living with a Brain Injury. Anthony Aquan-Assee, welcome.
Wow, thank you very much for that lovely introduction. I can hardly wait to be able to do this. As I was just introduced, my name is Anthony Aquan-Assee. And my primary work is as a grade 7-8 elementary school teacher in Toronto. But you know, it's something that requires much more work from me. And is much more difficult is coping with the unending battles associated with my traumatic brain injury. 10 years ago, I sustained a traumatic brain injury. And my life was changed forever. However, through my persistence and my determination, as well as the support that I received, I was given the gift of a second life and a second chance. Which in essence, was an opportunity for me to start over. Now starting over is exactly what I've had to do ever since I sustained my traumatic brain injury. And during the past 10 years since my brain injury, I've learned a tremendous amount. So as a result, I decided to write my second book, which is right here on the screen. It's called Starting Over, Survivor's Guide. And this book is a toolkit. And this book describes many strategies that would help a survivor cope with the challenges associated with a brain injury. Now the first book that I wrote is called Second Life, Second Chance. A Teacher's Chronicle, Despair, Recovery, and Triumph. And this book on the right-hand side here. And this book is more a story about the time when I was a patient in the trauma hospital, St. Michael's Hospital. However, my most recent book focuses more on my rehab. And the title of my presentation today is based upon my second book, Starting Over, Survivor's Guide. Now, starting over, this has been extremely difficult for me. But my recovery and rehabilitation was made a lot easier because I helped putting the pieces of my life back together again. As a brain injury survivor, I've learned that it's so important for a survivor to empower themselves and be an advocate in their own healing journey. A survivor needs to join the team of healing professionals and work alongside of them in order to guide their own recovery. Effort is essential, but a commitment to the recovery process is just as important. Now, in my talk to you today, I really hope that I can show you that it is possible for someone to start over. And make a change in their life and find a new direction for themselves, even when it appears as if they've lost everything. Because you've got to realize that through your own persistence and determination, you can create a new path to a new success. Now, before I continue to talk, let me just start off by saying that as a grade 7-8 elementary school teacher, I cannot tell you how happy it makes me to speak to a group of people that are actually quiet. This is unbelievable. My grade 7-8 students, they think this right to free speech that we have is not only a right, but an obligation. So, thank you kindly. This is awesome. Now, during the past couple of years, I've kept a very special quotation in the forefront of my mind, as well as on the front door of my classroom. And this quotation is by a famous American author and cartoonist named Theodore Seuss Geisel. Theodore Seuss Geisel is best known for writing children's books. Books such as Green Eggs and Ham, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and The Cat in the Hat. And he wrote all these books under the pen name Dr. Seuss. I love Dr. Seuss books. They are awesome. And the last book that Dr. Seuss wrote just before he died was called Oh, the Places You Go. And this is an awesome book. I love this book. I read this book every single year to my students because it really describes and discusses many of the problems that we all face as we go through this journey in life. And this quotation that I really love comes from the start of this book. And this quotation goes like this: congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places, you're off and away. You have grace in your head, your feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose. You're on your own, but you know what you know. And you are the guy who will decide where to go. I love that quotation. I love it, because it's really telling us that we're in charge of our own destiny. And you got to remember the last line. And you are the guy who decides where to go. Because as we go through this journey in life, it all really is up to us. We determine what's going to happen to us. Now, I realize that we all face various difficulties in our lives. We all face these challenges that really prevent us and make us feel that we can't achieve the goals that we've set for ourselves. Well, you know what? It's during the difficult times in our lives that we have to continue to focus on our dreams and our goals and try to find some way to maintain the desire that's necessary in order for us to achieve our goals. Now, the late, great Christopher Reeve, he said it best when he said that a hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. Now, this also is an awesome quotation. I love this one too. And you know what? We can all be this sort of hero in our own lives because we all have the strength within ourselves to face the greatest challenges in our lives and use these challenges to redirect our lives in a meaningful way. People become great when they make a decision to pursue the dreams of their lives and they never give up. They never quit. Overcoming the day-to-day challenges in their lives is what's going to help people grow and eventually live their dreams. But this does require one to push themselves despite the obstacles. Now, geologists tell us that diamonds are formed from lumps of coal, which are under great pressure and intense heat deep inside the earth. Well, extraordinary people develop in much the same way. They never give up under pressure, and they take a lot of heat. They made a decision to pursue their dreams in their lives, and they never give up or quit. Now, this idea of never giving up is so important for a brain injury survivor. Because a survivor, they face so much confusion, so much uncertainty in their life, because their life has changed so drastically as a result of the brain injury. So as a result, they have to continue to push themselves extremely hard in order for their life to have some semblance of normality. Now, I just want to say to everybody here that it is with your unending support that you give to a brain injury survivor that will really enable them and help them quilt the pieces of their life back together again. It's this type of unending support that I received following my accident that's enabled me to get to where I am today. I had the help and support of many great people. People such as my family, my friends, and some outstanding rehab professionals, just like many of you who are here today. And this unending support really made a big difference in my life. And it really helped me to start over. Now, starting over, this has been an incredible journey of self-discovery for me. It's by living with my traumatic brain injury that I've really been able to discover my true self. And this journey of self-discovery, for me, began on September 23rd, 1997. This is a very significant day in my life. Now, at that time, I was a grade 7-8 special education teacher at a school in Toronto called Fern Avenue Public School. And I was also the football coach at this school. And on the morning of September 23rd, 1997, I'd woken up at my girlfriend's house. And I was really excited because my football team had qualified for the Toronto Championships. So we were going to the city finals. And I was so pumped. I wanted to get my team fully prepared for the Toronto Championships. So I was rushing around that morning, rushing around the house, trying to get myself ready to go to work. Because I was going to go to the football practice. And I was hoping that I was going to take my motorcycle to go to work. So I was rushing around to get myself ready. And then, all of a sudden, my girlfriend came up to me. And she asked me if I wanted an egg sandwich for breakfast. And I just said to her, no thanks. I don't have time to eat breakfast. I got to get to the football practice. We're going to the championships. Now, she went ahead and made me that egg sandwich anyways, despite my protests. And this got me so frustrated and upset. Because this was a pattern in our relationship. We never listened to each other. day, she didn't listen to me when I told her not to bother making me an egg sandwich. And likewise, I too didn't listen to her when she told me to sit down and eat the egg sandwich that she made for me, just so I wouldn't waste it. Now, she then went on and started talking to me about how impatient I always was. And this got me really frustrated and upset. Couldn't take any more of it. So I think I ended up saying something to her that rhymed with the word duck. and then I rushed out of the house without saying another word to her. And the egg sandwich that she made for me would remain on the kitchen counter uneaten. And this was a decision that would change the course of my life forever. On September 23rd, 1997, my life changed drastically. I was only 3 blocks away from my girlfriend's house when I was hit by a very careless driver. The driver of this car right here was in a rush to catch their morning GO train. And they ended up making a very careless left-hand turn as I was going straight through an intersection in Mississauga. They didn't see me, and there was a huge collision. I was thrown many meters away from my motorcycle, and my motorcycle was destroyed in the accident. Now, when the paramedics came to the scene of the accident, I was in really bad shape. I didn't have any vital signs. I wasn't breathing. I didn't have a pulse. So they had to rush me very quickly to the closest hospital, which was Credit Valley Hospital, Mississauga. Now, Credit Valley Hospital is not a trauma center, so they weren't designed to deal with the extent of the injuries that I sustained. So I was then airlifted to St. Michael's Trauma Hospital in downtown Toronto, where I underwent numerous life-saving surgeries. Not only was I in a very deep coma, I was in a coma for 2 weeks, but I also sustained numerous life-threatening internal injuries. And this required numerous surgeries. The first surgery that I had to undergo was neurosurgery, because I sustained a very serious brain injury. My brain was swelling tremendously inside my skull. Now, as you might know, when your brain swells, the skull does not expand to accommodate the increasing size of the brain. So, if your brain continues to swell, it's eventually going to get crushed to death. So the doctors were desperate to reduce the swelling in my brain. So they had to open up my skull, and they had to place some tubes into my brain in order to drain out all the blood and the cerebrospinal fluid. Now, I gotta apologize to you. I know you're just eating lunch. Please bear with me with these graphic details, because I know, they're important in my talk. So just bear with me on these. Now, thankfully that operation was successful, because they placed the tubes and they were able to reduce the swelling in my brain. However, I was still in very critical condition, because I badly damaged my heart as well. And this required open heart surgery. I ruptured the aortic arch right here. And the aorta is the main artery that comes out of the heart. It takes blood off to the rest of the body. When the doctors opened up my entire chest, they saw that it was ruptured. And the surgeon told me that I was really only 5 heartbeats away from death. They had to place a Dacron graft around the aortic arch in order to hold it together. This is a synthetic man-made tube, in order to keep it together. Now, I'd also badly damaged the aortic heart valve, which is right here. And this is the valve that opens up when your heart beats to allow blood to go through it into the aorta and off to the rest of the body. But the doctors weren't able to repair the valve. And the heart surgeons told me that eventually, by the time I'm around 50, which is 11 years from me, I'm 39. When I'm around 50, I'm going to have to go for more open heart surgery, because I'm going to have a valve replacement. They're going to need to put a new valve into my heart, because I'm living now with a very serious condition. It's severe. It's called severe aortic regurgitation, which is it's a big problem with my heart. The heart's not really functioning properly. Now, they're going to have to go in and replace the valve in order to compensate for this problem. Now, after this surgery, I was still in very critical condition, because I'd also badly damaged my lungs. All the ribs in my body were shattered. They'd badly damaged these internal organs. So I badly damaged both lungs, but I also tore this tube right here, which is the left main stem bronchus. And the left main stem bronchus is the main tube that brings air from the trachea to your left lung. So what the surgeons had to do is they had to open up my entire back, cut through all the ribs in order to get at my lungs. And originally they thought they were going to have to remove my left lung, but thankfully they were able to save it. and they were able to repair the left main stem bronchus. So they completed that surgery, but you know what? I was still in very critical condition, and I had to undergo general surgery. Because I had actually ruptured my spleen, and I also tore and lacerated my intestines. So the doctors had to open up my entire abdomen. They had to remove my spleen. Now your spleen is your storage house for blood, and since I ruptured it, I was bleeding profusely internally. They had to remove the spleen in order for me to survive. And you can live without your spleen. They also had to stitch up my intestines because they were lacerated. And consequently, I was bleeding profusely from that injury as well. So, that's why they performed the general surgery. Now, after that surgery, I had to undergo orthopedic knee surgery because I broke my right knee and I tore 3 of the 4 ligaments in my right knee. Now, not only did this require orthopedic knee surgery at the time of my accident, but during the past 10 years, I've had to have an additional 10 knee surgeries because my knee is degenerating, it's falling apart. And at my last knee surgery at St. Michael's Hospital, the knee surgeon told me that eventually I'm going to have knee replacement surgery. So in the next couple of years, he's going to go about doing that. He doesn't want to do it to me right now. I'm 39, I'm too young for this operation. But my knee is falling apart, so they're going to have to put a new knee in my right knee. After that surgery, I had to undergo plastic surgery because I broke most of the bones in my face. I broke my nose. I broke my jaw. I broke this cheekbone right here. And I also broke this bone above my left eye. Now these injuries require plastic surgery because the surgeon had to set my nose and my jaw in order for them to heal properly. The surgeon also had to place a metal plate on my cheekbone to hold this bone in place. In addition, the surgeon also had to place some screws and wiring above my left eye in order to hold this bone in place. In fact, I can still feel the screws and wires to this day right here. So, as you can see, I sustained numerous injuries, and I was not expected to live. However, the most difficult injury to deal with has been the damage to my brain. The brain injury has changed my life tremendously. When I was in a coma in the neurotrauma intensive care unit at St. Michael's Hospital, the doctors had a private meeting with my family. They told my family it was unlikely I was going to survive. And they said I wasn't going to come out of the coma. And even if I did come out of the coma, I'd be a vegetable for the rest of my life. I'd never be able to take care of myself. So the doctors wanted my family to think about the quality of life that I would have wanted. And they were subtly suggesting to my family to have me removed from the life support system that was keeping me alive. Thankfully, my family didn't follow those recommendations. And I survived. And I'm now able to tell my story and educate people about traumatic brain injuries and also help promote motorcycle safety, which is something I really love. Now, what I'd like to do now, just like to show a little break, I'd like to show you a quick little video. It's a short little video that has some clips of me as a patient when I was in St. Michael's Hospital. And you can get a sense from the video some of the challenges I was facing back then. Let me just take a little break.
Anthony Aquan-Assee had it all. A loving family, a promising career as a special education teacher, a vibrant social life, and a passion for his athletic endeavors, placing second in the 1994 Toronto Bodybuilding Championships. Before September 23rd, 1997, when his motorcycle collided with a car that was making an unsafe left turn. His motorcycle was destroyed in the accident. Anthony was rushed to Credit Valley Hospital in Mississauga. From there, he was airlifted to St. Michael's Hospital, where he underwent numerous life-saving surgeries. Anthony underwent open heart surgery, lung surgery, general surgery, orthopedic surgery, and plastic surgery.
trauma inpatient unit. That's his wife on his leg. Okay.
That's the important thing, it's all behind you. We are so proud of you, you know. The doctors are proud of you, the nurses are proud of you. Everybody is proud of you. You see, you're amazing.
One, two, three. Okay, David. Move your foot, that's it. Sit back. Yeah. And use your body, use your arms, your legs. Just like Joe.
Wait for the new
That was right here.
There's a wheelchair there, John.
Keep going.
He told us to turn around.
Okay, just go ahead. I'll meet you halfway.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mind the wheelchair, it's right there.
How long has it been, Mom? 8 weeks?
8.5 weeks.
The Anthony Aquan-Assee after 8.5 weeks of fighting and suffering and doing well. Say hi to the camera, Anthony.
Hey,
You look great on camera, man.
thank you. Works right up close.
Through his persistence and determination, Anthony has been able to recover the capacity to function effectively despite the overwhelming odds against him. For the past 9 years, Anthony has been volunteering in the Neurotrauma Intensive Care Unit at St. Michael's Hospital. In the year 2000, Anthony was awarded the Courage to Come Back Award from the Center for Addictions and Mental Health. This was awarded for his courage to face the adversities in his life and his ability to use these challenges in a proactive way. In 2003, Anthony published his first book, Second Life, Second Chance, A Teacher's Chronicle of Despair, Recovery, and Triumph. His second book, Starting Over, A Survivor's Guide, is a toolkit that describes many strategies that would help the survivor cope with their own particular challenges. The lesson that Anthony has learned from this life-changing event can best be described by the words of the great Sir Winston Churchill: never, 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 never give up.
Thank you so very much. Now, when I sustained my traumatic brain injury, I feel as if I lost my sense of self. This is a very common experience and feeling amongst many brain injury survivors. And it involves a conscious awareness on the part of the survivor that they're no longer the same person. They're a very different person. They've changed. This is exactly how I have felt the past 10 years while living with my brain injury. And it's led to a great deal of emotional distress. The realization that I changed so much as a result of my brain injury made me feel so much anger, sadness, depression, anxiety, a whole host of negative emotions. Because I changed so drastically. I had changed physically, cognitively, emotionally, socially. And as a result, I was forced to start over. And as a result, again, so began my journey of self-discovery. Now, in the early stages, I had so much distress. I experienced so much because I had discovered that there were great inconsistencies between the pre-accident Anthony that I used to know and the post-accident Anthony. I was no longer the same person. I had changed so drastically. And I wasn't able to do the things I used to be able to do. And I felt so bad as a result of this. Now, in the early stages of my recovery, one of the first ways that the brain injury appeared in my life was with major memory problems. The memory problems have been very severe for me. I was forced to start over and learn who I was again, because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know my family. I didn't know my friends. When I was a patient at St. Michael's Hospital, when I was awake, I was no longer in a coma. I was at St. Mike's for several months. And when my family would come to visit me, there were frequently many times I couldn't recognize them. Couldn't remember my own family. Now, this also applied to my friends. I had a whole host of friends that would come to visit me. Couldn't remember them. Including my best friend, Mark, who I spent most of my time with. I couldn't remember Mark. Now, this caused me a great deal of distress. And these memory problems were very severe. They continued for me when I was a patient at St. Mike's. And then eventually, after several months, I was transferred to Credit Valley Hospital, Mississauga, for neurological rehabilitation, neuro rehab. And these major memory problems continued there as well. In fact, not only did I have these major memory problems, these very severe cognitive problems, but some very severe emotional problems. Because I started to become very aware that I was a different person. Now, at Credit Valley Hospital, it was like going back to school for me. Because I had so many different therapies. I had occupational therapy, physiotherapy, psychology, social work, and recreational therapy. I had all these therapy classes to attend. So for me, it was like going back to school. And in the early stages, I was still in a wheelchair. And so when I had a therapy session, the therapist would have to come to my room to get me. Because I'd never be able to find my way around the hospital. I'd never remember, and I couldn't navigate myself. I'd be so confused. So when the therapist came into my room to get me for the therapy session, I'd always be standing there looking at them with a perplexed look in my face. I couldn't remember them, even though I saw them every single day. I'd stare at them with this perplexed look in my face, and then the therapist would have to reintroduce themselves to me, tell me who they were, tell me what therapy class we were going to go to, and tell me what we're going to do in the therapy session. And this happened every day. And I felt horrible as a result of this. I questioned, why did I survive? Now, as I was at Credit Valley Hospital, I was also told that I sustained a traumatic brain injury. But when I was told this, I refused to accept this. I vehemently denied that there was anything wrong with my brain. They were telling me that there was something wrong with my brain, and I refused to accept this. Before my accident, my intelligence was something that I really valued. I had to protect my pre-accident self-concept. And now here they were telling me there's something wrong with me. So I continued to deny these problems. And I continued to tell my therapist that there was nothing wrong. And that I would eventually get a little better. And as I continued to deny my problems only got worse. In fact, a whole host of new problems started to emerge. It's only by coming to grips with my problems and learning to accept them that I've been able to find some peace and feel a lot better about myself. Acceptance has been key and very, very critical for me. Psychologists recognize that acceptance is a critical psychological factor that's involved in successfully adjusting to and adapting to a traumatic event, such as a traumatic brain injury. And acceptance has been something that I've really had to fight for. Now, today, my memory problems have improved tremendously. I've been able to develop a variety of different strategies to help me cope and compensate for these difficulties. Not only have I been able to compensate, but I've been able to put these tools in place in my life. I've started over with these strategies. I have so many strategies that I use to compensate for my problems. I like to say that I have a lot of BS. BS, and what's that? Well, BS, that's an acronym. And acronyms are another strategy that I use. And this strategy of BS, brain strategies. I have so many brain strategies that I use to help me compensate for my problems. I have a whole host of problems, and I have all these strategies to compensate. Now, probably the most important tool, the most important strategy that I use, and I never go anywhere without it. I never leave home without it. And I know that sort of sounds like the American Express commercial, but it's not. My Palm Pilot. My Palm Pilot is like my external hard drive. This baby enables me to remember everything I need to remember. It has a to-do list. It has a monthly calendar. It also has a programmable alarm that I can program to ring to remind me of different things at different times. I can program my Palm Pilot. Can I take questions at the end? Thank you. I can program my Palm Pilot to remind me that, you know what, I've got a staff meeting at work. And I program it, and I alarm it, and my Palm Pilot will ring to remind me, and I'm not going to forget that staff meeting. In fact, I'm probably going to be the first person at that staff meeting because of my Palm Pilot. It reminded me. I also can program my Palm Pilot to ring to remind me to collect a particular homework assignment from a student that's forgotten to hand it in. So in the morning, my Palm Pilot will ring, and I am not going to forget to ask that student for that homework assignment. My Palm Pilot helps me remember so many different things. It's ringing all the time throughout the school day, and it helps me compensate throughout the school day. And my students, they become very aware of how much it helps me, because I hear it ringing all the time. Now, you know what? Not only does it help me at school, it helps me at home. I can program my Palm Pilot to remind me to call one of my students' parents in the evening. So I'm at home, I'm not even thinking anything about school. My mind is the furthest thing away from school, and then the Palm Pilot rings. And I don't forget to call that parent. So it's an incredible power, it's a tool. It helps me remember so many different things. And I would highly encourage other survivors to go out and purchase an assistive device such as this one. Because it's a fabulous compensatory tool. I should probably become like a Palm poster boy though. Because I use it all the time. I don't go anywhere without it. It's an amazing tool. Now, another strategy that I use is the principle of consistency. Consistency, this is an important way to compensate for problems related to memory confusion. It involves developing routines to complete daily tasks. When you complete tasks routinely at the same time and in the same sequence, this will improve your memory and it will reduce your overall stress. I have been able to develop so many different routines that I complete on a consistent basis every single day to help me remember all the things I need to remember. Like, for example, let's say, as soon as I get home, I walk into my house. And the very first thing that I do, as soon as I walk into my house, is I immediately place my car keys right down in the middle of the table that's at the entrance to my home. So I know exactly where my car keys are all the time, and I don't lose them, because they're always in the exact same location. And this also applies to other important items, such as my pouch, which contains my wallet, and my cell phone. These items are always placed in the exact same location, and I don't forget them. Now, this is complete contrast to the way I was in the early stages of my recovery. Post-rehab, after I got my driver's license back and I was given permission to start driving, well, I'd be taking my car keys and I just place them randomly down in different locations without thinking about them, just haphazardly, just place them down. And as a result, I would lose my car keys for long periods of time. Could never remember where my car keys were. And this also applied to things like my wallet, my cell phone, other important items. But now, I have these consistent routines in place to help me remember where these important items are. Now, I also have these routines in my classroom at school, and they help me so much there. Like, for example, let's say as soon as I get to school, one of the first things that I do when I walk into my classroom is I immediately go to the homework board and I record all the students' homework assignments down on this area of the blackboard. So this is an area of the blackboard where the students can look to know exactly what their homework is, and it also helps me. So all these consistent routines on a regular basis enable me to compensate and cope. But I tell you, it does force me and require me to be rather anal, because I have to do these routines, and I have to engage in them at a certain time. I'm rather obsessive and rather anal. And the teachers at the school, boy, do they ever comment. They make comments about how anal I am with these routines, because they know that I have these routines, but they also know that I sustain a brain injury. But they're not aware of the intricacies of a brain injury. And I tell you, it really doesn't serve me very well, though, to have a last name like Aquan-Assee. I have to be so anal. I am the butt of so many jokes, let me tell you. No pun intended. Now, another strategy that I use, and it's an awesome strategy, these yellow sticky post-it notes. I love these babies. As you can see, well, you can't probably see, but I have so many of them up here. I don't go anywhere without these post-it notes. These post-it notes are plastered all over my wall at home to remind me of different things. These Post-it notes are plastered all over the wall at school to help me remember things. I have these Post-it notes plastered all over my books to help me remember certain page numbers and concepts that are critical that I need to teach. I never go anywhere without these Post-it notes. I love them because they're a great visual tool to help me remember different things. Now, I can probably thank my case manager for this obsession. Because ever since she introduced them to me, I can't stop buying them. Anytime I see these Post-it notes, I have to buy them. My case manager, Susan Paquette, she introduced them to me and they've helped me tremendously. I've got this huge obsession with these Post-it notes. Not only do I have these yellow Post-it notes, but I also have blue colored Post-it notes. I also have purple colored Post-it notes. Not only do I have these different colors, but I also have the Post-it notes that come in different sizes. I have the purple Post-it notes, and they're smaller. I have the smaller yellow ones. I have the smaller blue ones. Not only do I have the smaller size, but I also have these Post-it notes that come in different shapes. So I have the Post-it notes that come in the shape of an arrow. I also have the Post-it notes that come in the shape of a star. And what's really awesome for a teacher is I have these Post-it notes that come in the shape of an apple. These are awesome. And they are a beauty. So, yes, I will admit I've got this serious obsession with the Post-it notes. But you've always got to be able to find a positive with every drawback. And the real positive for me with this obsession is that I get so many positives, especially from the women when I use these specialty Post-it notes. The women love these.
You're married, aren't you?
Yeah, but I give them to my wife. Now, women think that I'm the most sensible man. And my man is so in touch with his feminine side when I use these, and that is awesome. They really think that's great. Now, anyway, so these are some of the strategies I use to help me cope with my memory problems. Now, I've written about many more of them in my most recent book, Starting Over, Survivor's Guide. But you know what? Today, the memory problems associated with my brain injury, they still appear in my life in a variety of different ways. No longer are they as severe as they used to be, but they still appear in my life. Like, for example, let's say I'm with my wife, Jennifer, who's just happens to sit right over there on the left-hand side by the door. Let's say I'm sitting with my wife, Jennifer. We want to rent a video from Blockbuster Video. So, it's a Wednesday evening, we decide to go to the movie store. So we go in. And as soon as I walk into the movie store, I see this great video on the shelf. It looks really funny. I grab it. It's the 40-year-old version. I look at Jen. I say, Jen, this is a really awesome movie. It looks really funny. How about we rent this? Jen then looks at me with a bewildered look on her face. She said, Anthony, we just rented and saw that video 2 weeks ago. Don't you remember? And then I look at Jen with the exact same bewildered look on my face. I say, no, I don't. I haven't seen the movie. And then she says, yes, you have, Anthony. Take a look at some of the pictures that are in the cover case. Don't they look sort of familiar to you? I look at the pictures. I say, no, they don't. I haven't seen the movie, Jen. I don't know what you're talking about. Now, we start a little argument now. Her telling me that I have seen the movie, and I'm telling her that I haven't seen the movie. And this goes on for a bit, rather embarrassing right there in Blockbuster. And then all of a sudden, I get a little suspicious. And I turn to Jen and I say, well, who did you see the movie with? It wasn't me. Now, this goes on, we start arguing about this, this goes on for a bit, and then Jen eventually, she surrenders. She gives up, and she says, okay, rent the video. And so now, I'm feeling pretty pleased with myself, and I'm pretty smug, because I know that I haven't seen the movie. So I rent it. And then we go home. And then we start watching the movie. But once I start watching the movie, I realize that I had seen it. And then, I have to turn to my wife with a very loving look on my face. And I have to use those 5 oh so very important words, I'm sorry, you are right. In fact, I've learned ever since I sustained my traumatic brain injury, the 5 most essential words to a healthy relationship for me are, I'm sorry, You were right. Now, I'm using this line with her all the time. All the time. But today, it starts to the point. Now, whenever I start to use this line with her, Jen then looks at me. She says, Anthony, okay, give it up, okay? Give it a rest. I'm not in the mood for any of that bill right now. And she says, don't give me any of that bill. Not bull. Even though she should probably say bull, she said bill. And what does bill mean? Well, this is an acronym. And this acronym stands for brain injury line. So she's telling me, don't give me that brain injury line. We always use these acronyms back and forth, her and I. In fact, our communication now is almost like an MSN chat. She says, don't give me that bill. And I say, well, I got a lot of BS. And then she says, oh yeah, well, LOL, laugh out loud. And I say, well, BRB, but you be right back. So our communication is using all these acronyms all the time. So it's rather hilarious, but you know, it's something that helps me compensate and remember, because I can remember the words in these acronyms. Now, these major memory problems that I experience nowadays, with regards to the movies, it's a complete contrast to the way I was in the early stages. Because when I was released from rehab hospital, I was at home. I was home a lot, because I wasn't working. And let's say I wanted to watch a movie, because it helped me pass the time. I rented a video, it was a Monday evening. Well, that video, back then, could last me the entire week. Because I could watch the exact same video every single night. It was like watching a brand new movie for me. So I guess you could sort of say back then that, you know, the brain injury served to save me quite a bit of money. Because I didn't have to keep paying for new videos, I didn't have to keep paying for new experiences. Everything was new for me. Now, these memory problems, they also appear all the time for me when I'm at school, which is why I have to use so many strategies to compensate. Because as a teacher, I'm not supposed to forget. Now, let's say it's a Monday evening, and I'm with my students in the hallways, because they're getting their books out of their lockers, getting ready for the next class. And then, my brightest student, his name is Christian, he starts walking up to me. Now, Christian is a grade 7 student. And I'm a grade 7, 8 teacher, and he's brighter than all the grade 8s in the class. In fact, he's probably the brightest kid in the school. Because he's so high achieving, he's so driven. He never forgets anything. But on this day, he's walking up to me with a very forlorn look on his face. He's looking really sad. His head is lowered. And he's walking up to me. And he comes up to me and says, excuse me, Mr. A. And I say, yes, Christian, what's wrong? He says, Mr. A, I'm really sorry. I can't remember what the geography homework is from this morning. Can you tell me what the homework is, please? He's feeling really bad. But then, I'm looking at him with a perplexed look on my face. And I said, you know what? That's a good question, because I can't remember either. Let's go into the classroom, and let's take a look at the homework board. That is why I have that homework board. Not only does it enable my students to remember, it enables me to remember. Now, you know what? Christian is a really bright student, and he's another strategy that I use. He's a very bright student. He's so driven. And as a teacher, you've got to really be able to identify your bright students, because they can help you a lot. Christian, he helps me with so many subjects, like, for example, history. History is a subject that I find so difficult, because I find it very difficult to remember these important historical dates and periods, because they're not in the forefront of my mind. Unless something is in the forefront of my mind, I generally don't remember it. And let's just say that I'm having a history discussion with my class. And then one of my very inquisitive students, his name is Tony, he raised his hand in the air. Now, Tony is a grade 8 student. And he's always asking me all these questions. He's so curious, and they challenge me so much. But on this particular day, he raised his hand in the air, and he says, excuse me, Mr. A, you know the American Revolution that we've been studying? And I said, yes, what about it? Well, you know, it's one of the contributing causes, one of the contributing factors, eventually leading to Canada's Confederation. I say, absolutely, yes, what's your question? He says, well, Mr. A, I can't remember when the American Revolution took place. Can you tell me? Now, as he's asking me this question, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I don't remember when it took place either. I couldn't tell you. Now, I don't want to admit this to my class, because I'm expecting them to remember. So I don't want to admit this. So then I turn to Tony, I say, Tony, did you not do your history homework from last night? history homework last night, you would know exactly when the American Revolution took place. Now, it's at this point, I'm still struggling to try to remember what it is. I'm racking my brain, I'm searching through it, I'm wishing I could go to the history textbook and look it up. But I don't want to do that. So I just throw it out to the class. And I say, is there anybody in the class that would like to help Tony with this question? Because apparently, he didn't do his history homework. And then, sure enough, my brightest student, Christian, raises his hand in the air. And as soon as I see Christian's hand go in the air, I think to myself, thank God. And I say, Christian, yes. And then Christian stands up. He's so driven. He's so high achieving. He says, yes, Mr. A. The American Revolution, also known as the War of Independence, it took place between the years of 1775 and 1783. And Mr. A, during that time, the 13 colonies, which were formerly part of the British Empire, they rebelled against Britain. And then, Mr. A, when the peace treaties were finally signed, the 13 colonies achieved their independence, and thus a new country was born, the United States of America. As Christian is saying this to the class, I'm thinking to myself, thank God Christian's in my class. Thank you, Lord.
You know it now, though.
And then, you're absolutely right. And then, when Christian finishes telling the class that, I turn to him and I say, that's excellent work, Christian. You're absolutely correct. And then I turn to Tony and I say, see, Tony, if you've done your history homework last night, you know exactly what Christian telling all of us. Don't let this happen again. Okay?
That wasn't, sir, that wasn't to include the finding of Canada in 1867. It wasn't.
I can't even hear you. Anyways.
No, sir, that wasn't so. That
Okay,
wasn't.
man, can we get to that actor's honesty? Because you're going to take me right off the track. Okay, now, excuse me, can you please sit down, please? That's what I say to my students. Otherwise, I can put your name on the board. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, now, how is it that I can remember my talk? I can remember these talks, yet I can't remember these important historical dates. Well, you wouldn't believe the obsessiveness. How obsessive I had to be in order to remember my talks. I go over my talks, not only in the morning, at lunch, after school, in the evening, when I'm in the bathroom, when I'm in the shower. My poor wife, this is all she's heard from me. In fact, she probably remembers it too. Because I have to be so obsessive with these talks. And unfortunately, you know what? I'm not that way with history. Now, anyways, on to another difficulty that I experienced as a result of my brain injury is with emotional ability. Emotional ability has been a real challenge for me. This is the drastic fluctuations of one's moods, ranging from extreme highs to extreme lows. And this all started for me when I was a patient in Credit Valley Hospital. And there, on any particular day, I might be feeling fine. No problems, no worries. And then boom, all of a sudden, I'd be sobbing uncontrollably without any precipitating event. For no apparent reason, I just start to cry. Or alternatively, I might be feeling fine. No problems, no worries. And then boom, all of a sudden, I'd be so angry, I'd be protesting vehemently. These are the drastic fluctuations of my moods that I had to live with for the first couple of years after my accident. But nowadays, I no longer experience such drastic fluctuations. But I still experience these periods of emotional ability. Like, for example, I might be driving my car to work, listen to some really nice music. I love Jesse Cook's music. Jesse Cook's music always touches my heart. And all of a sudden, right there in the car, as I'm listening to this music, boom, I start to cry. I start to cry. Now, this is completely unlike the way I was before my accident. Before my accident, I refused to shed a tear. But nowadays, that's not a problem. It happens all the time. This also happens so much with my wife. But you know what? My wife now knows, and she completely understands about traumatic brain injury. She knows a lot about brain injuries. But when we first started to date, she didn't even know what a brain injury was. But let me tell you, she must have learned real quick. I remember our second date. We'd only known each other for a week. And we were going to see this movie. It was a fabulous movie called 50 First Dates. Awesome. 50 This movie, as you probably know well aware, is about a girl that sustained a brain injury. This meant so much to me. And it was my ploy to teach her and educate her about brain injuries. Because I saw in the commercials that it was about a girl that sustained a brain injury. So, I wanted to see this movie. And this movie had some very touching scenes. And I remember sitting right there in the movie theater, watching this movie, and all of a sudden one of these very touching scenes comes on. And all of a sudden I started to cry, right there in the movie theater. Jen looks over me with horror and terror in her eyes. She had no idea what's going on. Here I was, she'd only known me for a week, and I was already bawling my eyes out. She had no idea what was going on. So she says to me and screams at me with a sense of urgency, "Anthony, what's wrong? How can I help you? What's wrong?" I just turned quietly to her, and I wiped the tears away from my eyes. I said, "Shh. Just a very touching scene. It really means a lot to me. It's okay. I'm all right." Jen loved this about me. She thought I was the most sensitive man. I was a man so in touch with his feminine side. And let me tell you, in the early stages of our relationship, there were a lot of pauses for me because she looked at me with such high regard. She thought I was the most amazing man. But you know what? Nowadays, I can no longer use this to my advantage. I can no longer use this feminine side in order to get what I want from her. Like, let's say I start to use this feminine side because I want to get something from her. She just turns to me and says, "Anthony, give it up, okay? Give it a rest, okay? I know that's a brain injury." No, we're not going to do that. And this is one of the problems. But with every problem, there's always a positive. That's what I try to do. I always look at the positive. Now, this problem with emotional ability, this also happens a lot for me when I'm at school. Like, I might be having a class discussion with my students about something that means a lot to me, such as overcoming adversity, setting one's goals. Now, this topic really means a lot to me. And all of a sudden, during this discussion, I start feeling the tears welling up in my eyes. And I start getting the sniffles in my nose. And this is a sign of danger for me, because I know that I'm on the verge of tears. And the last thing that I want to do is start crying in front of my grade 7A class. This would scare the daylights out of me. So, during these times, I'm desperate to try to cover up the tears. I'm trying desperately to cover up the tears. So I might ask one student that's sitting next to the lights, "Can you please shut those lights off? Please shut the lights off." And then I'll comment to the class and I'll say, "I'm really sorry, boys and girls, but my eyes are killing me. It must be my allergies. I didn't take my allergy medication this morning. I'm really sorry." But then you get your really bright student, such as Christian. He got back, he raised his hand there. He said, "Excuse me, Mr. A, but it can't be your allergies. It's not allergy season." "Mr. A, maybe it's something wrong with your optic nerve." Now, he is so smart. We just finished studying in science. We just finished studying the human body. And we focused on the visual system. And here he is focusing and talking about the optic nerve. He's trying to impress not only his friends, but also me. And it puts me in a really awkward position. And it really makes me feel so embarrassed. But, you know what, like I always say, I always try to find the positive with every situation. And you know what? My wife, she loves the side of me. So everything else okay. I can deal with it. She loves it. Now, I also experience a tremendous number of sleep problems. I never get a restorative sleep. When I go to sleep, I'm always waking up. And the doctors were able to determine that the reason why I'm having these sleep problems is because one of the areas of my brain that is damaged was my brainstem. And the brainstem is involved in controlling the body's level of arousal. I'm not talking about the type of arousal I might experience when I'm with my wife, Jennifer. Because if that was the arousal that had been disrupted, that would completely explain those uncontrolled sobbing spells I'm talking about. I'm talking about the type of arousal that's associated with the sleep-wake cycle. Your brainstem is very involved in that whole process. And so this whole sleep process is very disturbed and disrupted with me. Now, I spent some time talking about the problems I experienced as a result of my brain injury. But it's because of these very problems I've been able to learn so much. I've learned a tremendous amount. I've learned that behind every problem, there is an opportunity in disguise. There really is. I've also learned that it's so important for someone to be able to identify the positive in every situation. Because this is an important way that one can cope when one's having difficulty in one's life. You see, our experiences in life are directly related to the quality of our thoughts. So if you're having a difficulty in your life, you got to work really hard to try to find a way to change your thoughts. And it might help you if you can identify the positive in your given situation. Now, a brain injury survivor, they also need to learn how to play to their strengths. In fact, this is important for everybody. Because we have much more to gain when we focus on our strengths than if we try to repair our weaknesses. Very often, as we go through life, we often lose touch with where our strengths really are. And this is definitely the case when someone sustains a brain injury, because they're forced to start over and learn who they really are again. A brain injury survivor, as well as everyone else, will grow much more in the areas where they're the strongest. So it makes much more sense for someone to continue to focus on their strengths and build a plan to develop them, rather than to dwell on their weaknesses. You see, when you know what your strengths are, you have a better understanding of how to cope and manage around your weaknesses. So in my case, rather than focusing on the fact that I have some serious cognitive difficulties, I focused on my strengths. Being a very patient, kind, and giving person. And this enables me to function effectively in my job as a teacher, as well as my volunteer work. And this brings me a lot of happiness and a real sense of purpose. So as a result, my drive and determination enable me to manage around my weaknesses. So today, my brain injuries enable me to become much more efficient, because I have been forced to learn and use a variety of different strategies to help me cope. You know what? Not only do I think that I'm great, but there's many women that think that I'm great too. Because I'm one of these very rare men that never forget a birthday, anniversary, or any other special day. Now, thank you very much. I'd like to finish my presentation off today with a short passage from Dr. Seuss's book, All the Places You Go. Because this book and this passage has some great words of wisdom in it for a brain injury survivor as well as everyone else. And the passage goes like this. On and on you will hike, and I know you will hike far, and face up to your problems, whatever they are. You'll get mixed up, of course, as you already know. You'll get mixed up with many strange birds as you go. So be sure when you step with care and great tact. And remember that life's a great balancing act. Just never forget to be dexterous and deft. And never mix up your right foot with your left. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. Kid, you'll move mountains. So be your name, Buck Spong, or Bixby O'Bray, or Mordecai Alley, Van Allen O'Shea. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting. So get on your way. Thank you very much for being such a